And then in '89, you know, in November '89, when it all started to disintegrate, it became completely obvious that maybe Berlin was going to be a place where it would be possible. I guess the symbolic connotations were more important than the rock and roll show. It then took on a whole kind of new vibe because nobody had been on that ground since 1945. So that was pretty special. They stopped charging people when we got to 250 or 260,000, and you know, there were like another 100,000 people came in, so it was a huge, huge crowd. Then when it goes to Bring the Boys Back Home, you know, which is so clear and evident what it's about, and the graphics I thought that Mark and Jonathan produced at that point were quite compelling. And interesting as well in Germany to have like pictures of German officers as well as other people on this big wall, and then all the crosses and things. And with this, you know, Russian marching band playing these brass instruments rather badly. I thought that was quite edgy and cool. The day that we went to rehearse them was quite fascinating because we were driven into East Germany, and we were driven for hours and hours, it seemed, and eventually we came to this village and we were asking people, where is this huge, there's a Russian army camp somewhere near here, no one would tell us. They absolutely wouldn't tell us, and then we're saying, no such thing exists, and eventually we found the gate. It was about 100 yards away, you know, and then we're like 20,000 Russian troops in this huge camp, and they wouldn't let us in. They were a bit cautious because they weren't quite sure what was going to happen. They knew something was happening. They knew they were going home. They knew weren't staying there, but they weren't quite sure, you know, whether to be, how open to be. It sat very well with me. I've never had a problem about singing any of those lyrics in Germany or anywhere else. The lyrics are kind of obnoxious to some of the songs, but clearly everybody understands that it's satire, and so I get forgiven for, you know, all this stuff about coons and Jews things. People seem to accept that it's okay because they know I'm not racist and that, you know, I don't mean it, that I'm playing a part, and that it's okay as part of the play. You can't write rock and roll without offending somebody. Eric was going to do it, and so was Joe Cocker originally, but that was when we had the date a month earlier, and when we moved the date, Joe was doing a concert somewhere else, and Eric got cold feet. It was very hard to get people to actually commit. Some of them didn't. Some of them just, like Joni, for instance, just went, no, I'll do it, boom. Where do I sign? But a lot of, some other people were like, well, I'm not sure, you know, who else is doing it, you know, the thing. I wanted to make sure it was kosher. Rehearsing Van Morrison in England, which is, you know, just sort of amazing because he's so cut off and difficult and such a great singer and songwriter. And Marianne's a very old friend of mine who I adore. I've got a photograph at home in my studio of me on my knees, like that, you know, in the middle of the stage. I mean, I couldn't believe it happened twice, like in the first quarter of an hour. We lost the sound in Mother, and I found myself tap dancing in front of 300,000 people, you know, because there was nothing else to do. There was nothing going on. It took several minutes to discover exactly what it was and what was going on, and then in the meantime we were screwed. We couldn't do anything. It was frightening. It was really, truly frightening. That was pretty hair-raising. Sinead O'Connor going, can't hear anything, what did I hear? I said, no, we've lost all the power on the stage. What'll I do? What'll I do? I said, well, just smile, you know. Follow me. And then we heard odd bits. And I said, if you hear anything, mime, pretend you're singing, you know. Which she famously afterwards accused me of having tried to force her to mime on stage and stuff. So I just don't think she quite understood it. She was rather young, you know, not nearly as professional as the other people who were doing the show. It went out live, but when we lost the power, what went out was the safety from the dress rehearsal. Switch over to that, you know, for a few, and it was only a few minutes. Most of it was the live show. It was Thin Ice and Mother. Those were the only two things that went out from the Friday. Everything else went out live. We repaired the stuff after everybody had gone home. We stayed till 2 or 3 o'clock the next morning. Reran Uta Lemper's bit, which was one of the bits we lost. She stayed, bless her, and everybody stayed. Except Sinead. Sinead was a bit too grand to stay, so we had to use her performance from the dress rehearsal from the Friday to go out for, which is what you see on the DVD. That's her at the dress rehearsal, because she refused to come back and do it for reasons that only she can possibly understand. It's all a bit of a blur, really. There was so much work involved, and having seen it, I think, you know, it's quite impressive that it happened, really.